Okay, so we're going to start with asking the questions for our episode today. So, of course, you guys already know who I am, but this is my husband. His name is Hunter, and this is also Dr. Eden's son. Um, so, we're going to start by grilling him. How many years have we been married?
4 years, dear.
Good job. Okay. Was religion or faith a prominent force in your family when you were young?
Yes, it was.
Okay. What benefits in your family as a whole did you observe with faith being a prominent force in your development?
Really a sense of community and learning different things because I got to do missionary trips and other things working with the church. And I learned a lot from the people at the church who took an interest in my life and showed me a lot of things and helped develop communication skills and such.
Okay. Um, so, has this presence of faith within your family impacted your development as an adult, would you say?
Yes, I would say it has.
Okay. Um, and I guess I'm going to kind of answer the questions also. Um, from my point of view, I would also say that faith was a prominent force in my family growing up. My parents made sure that we went to church like every single Sunday without fail. And I would say the same thing that a lot of the benefits were just having a sense of community, having people that share the same values and morals that you do. And I would say that that's probably how it impacted my life growing up is it just gave me a sense of morals that I could fall back on, like a innate sense of right and wrong, I guess. Okay, so moving on to the next set of questions. What is your primary love language?
I would say physical touch.
Okay, and I would say that mine is probably quality time. Okay, what is your definition of intimacy?
Intimacy, I would say spending quality time doing physical touch things together, as in, cuddling, maybe massaging each other, just spending time together in a close setting without other people around.
Okay. And if you don't mind, try to speak up a little bit for our viewers. I know sometimes your deep voice gets lost.
Yes, dear.
um, but I would say that I would probably agree. I would say intimacy is like having a closeness with your partner, not just physically, but also emotionally, like how you're connected to each other. What actions would you say foster intimacy?
Being together, uh, being close. You could do things together that are like massages, cuddling, maybe watching a movie on the couch together, uh, other things like that.
Yeah, spending time together. What actions do you think hinder intimacy?
I would say having too much time not together or in the company of a lot of other people. I would say not having time to be together
Yeah,
would very much hinder intimacy.
I would say that, and also being like mean to one another, like not being nice to each other and um, picking at each other a lot would probably hinder the intimacy.
Yes.
Do you think that there can be true friendship without intimacy?
Yes. I would not want to be intimate with my friends.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to have the same connection with your friends that you do with your partner. I mean, obviously, your partner is
I
different.
view I view intimacy as being intimate with your spouse and partner. I don't view it as being intimate with others. I think there's other words and definitions for that kind of friendship.
Right. Um, okay. Do you think a marriage can last without intimacy?
Yes, but I don't think it's as healthy. I think it would be strained, and ultimately, I don't think it would be enjoyable for either partner.
I don't know that I would think that a marriage could last without intimacy. I think it would ultimately lead to divorce or at the very least separation. Okay. So the next one is kind of about communication skills. So what do you think are some key communication skills that couples must possess?
I think the ability to work through your problems, to figure out what triggers each other person and what they struggle with, so you can help them and be aware of it when you're speaking.
Yeah. I would say for communication skills, you really need to know each other's argument styles. I think it's important so that whenever you come across a problem that you guys need to talk about, that you know what the other person needs in an argument. So some people, they just want to talk it out right then and there, and that's fine. Um, yeah, this is our cat. You're probably going to hear a lot of purring. This is Gizmo. She's very loving. She wants to join today. But I would say you really have to know what your partner needs because some people like to talk it out right then and there, and other people, they need a few minutes to gather their thoughts. They need a few minutes to calm down and settle their emotions. And so it helps to know what your partner needs in the middle of an argument. And so that's something that like we've learned over the years of our marriage. Is like what each of us needs in order to be able to talk out an argument smoothly and not get heated or say mean things, basically. Um, so, what do you think are some communication issues that you have struggled with over the years in our marriage?
Learning each other's communication styles and the way we do arguments, such as, I like to sit down and communicate our problems because that's what I was taught growing up, and you were taught differently uh, while growing up. So we had to learn how to blend them and work together and figure out what works best for us.
I agree. I'm so worried. I'm distracted. I'm thinking like the only thing they're gonna hear is purring in the microphone. Like they're not gonna hear you because her face is right at the microphone.
Gizmo's great.
She's giving her input too. Um, I would agree with that. I think it was a matter of just learning the other person's style of communicating because we grew up with different backgrounds and
Hmm.
so we learned different things and we have to find out what works for us. Like
Yeah,
we had to find that middle ground.
absolutely.
What steps have you taken to overcome those struggles?
Bumbleberry.
Yes, we have a word that's like our argument word. So it's like if we get into a heated argument and we need to cool down or like change directions, we have like a word that we say to enact a certain set of rules. So if we're in a heated argument and our emotions are flaring up, one of us can say bumbleberry. That's our word. The point is that the word is it's got to be something funny and like fun to say, something that's like totally off the wall from whatever you're talking about. So our word is bumbleberry, and whenever one of us says bumbleberry, it like we flip a switch, it enacts a set of rules that we go by. So we say bumbleberry and we automatically know we need to take 20 minutes apart and gather our thoughts and calm down before coming back together and talking about the issues. So that's been helpful for us. Um, and what would you say are like, well, what would you give advice to newlyweds related to in relation to communication? Like, what advice would you give to a younger couple?
Patience and just trying to look at it from the other person's point of view and try to figure out together or separately and then bring your results to each other what led to the argument and talk about that to see how you can improve in the future and really realizing that not to blame one person or the other and just working through it together because you're now a cohesive whole or trying to be and you aren't an individual anymore.
Yeah, I would say a couple things. I would say listening to each other, like take turns talking. Don't just let one person do all the talking. Focus on I statements instead of you statements. So instead of saying, how dare you? I can't believe that you did this. Instead, say things like, this is how it makes me feel when you do this. And I just felt really hurt when you did this. And I don't know that you meant for me to feel that way, but that's how it makes me feel. Focus on what your feelings are rather than just directly blaming the other person. You did this, you did that, yada, yada, yada. Um, and don't ever bring up divorce. Work on your problems. Divorce is not a fix all. You're not going to have any less problems by bringing that up or threatening that. Gizmo agrees.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts on cohabitating before marriage?
Personally, I'm okay with it. I think it gives you a little look in on what marriage will be like, and you can see a lot more faces of your partner before being with them, because how you see them in a short period of time versus living with them and being with them 24/7 is very different, and you can see a lot more of than when just you see on a few dates.
I would disagree. I I look at multiple things of it. I don't think that it's good for multiple reasons. So one of the reasons, which I will mention in our episode, is that divorce rates are actually higher for couples that cohabitate before marriage. And I think, in my opinion, that it's because if you live together before marriage, it takes away the level of commitment. So you don't feel like you have to get married after you start living together because you're already living together. The only thing that marriage is going to change at that point is a piece of paper that says that you're married. And so I think for some people it takes away the need for the commitment. And if you live together before marriage, whenever you fight, it's like you can just leave is how you feel about it, because again, it's like commitment means less to you, I think, in that point. But that's just me. Gizmo is giving me side eye right now. Hey Gizmo. Okay. If you had to go back and redo things, would you cohabitate with your partner before marriage?
Yes, I would.
We did not. Mostly because I didn't want to. But look at us now. I think it worked out.
Yes, dear.
Okay. Um, so the next set of questions is about a little bit about parenting. So we'll be able to answer some of them, but not all of them. Um, and to give you a little bit of background about these questions, these questions talks about the three types of parenting styles. The first one is permissive, which is where parents pretty much let their children do what they want and rescue them whenever they get in trouble. Um, the second one is the authoritarian style, which is like you do what I say or else, and there's like no conditions. It's just the kid has to listen to what the parent says or they'll be punished. And then the last one is the authoritative style, which is where parents are reasonable but also nurturing, where they set high expectations but help guide their children through problems. Um, so keep those three in mind. So the first question is, which parenting style do you think that your parent used with you?
I would say specifically my mother used the third one, because I always did have high expectations of me growing up, but I was allowed to do mostly what I wanted, and she would just guide me whenever she wanted me to do a certain thing. Uh, Going to college was something I didn't want to do, but she guided me to go to college, and I did do that and graduate.
Okay.
Why you keep poking me?
You're moving too much. The chair squeaks and it picks up the noise.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, so I think for me, my parents were kind of a mixture of styles. I would say my mom was more of the authoritative. She was nurturing. She'd be like, you know, you can like do things, but also there were like high expectations and high rules of you definitely can't do this. But it was also like even if I did it, they were kind of like we'll get through it. My dad was kind of a mixture, I feel like. In some ways, he was like you're going to do this or else, But then in other ways, he was also nurturing, like, you know, we have high expectations, but no matter what, like, we'll get through it, you know? So I think I kind of had a mixture of both. Why do you think that they chose that style of parenting?
I believe my mother relied on her schooling and psychologist background to try to use that in raising me and tried to do it by the book as much as she could.
I think my parents chose their styles because that's how they were raised. I think they just really gauged it off of the only thing that they knew, which was their parents. Do you think that their style was effective?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I would say it was effective. How do you think that their style impacted your life?
I think it gave me a sense of I can make my own decisions. I don't have to rely on other people to decide my opinions for me. I know right from wrong, and I know how to do critical thinking for myself, and I don't rely on what other people tell me. I just take that as input.
Yeah, yeah. I would say that it had both positive and negative effects on me. I feel like in some ways I would do kind of how they did. Like I think in some ways, setting the expectations and having rules in place are important. But at the same time, I feel like in some ways my parents were very sheltering of us, me and my brother, and that in some ways they like kind of discouraged learning things for ourselves. It was kind of like, we have these rules because we don't want you to explore the world. But in some ways, children need to explore parts of the world on their own to really gain their own understanding. Um, so I would say it was a mixture. It had high points and low points.
I think being raised by both of my parents, my stepdad and my mother, gave me a very wide insight to a variety of people. I did a lot of I saw a lot of different characters on construction sites and going to places like that, seeing all those people. And then I got to see a lot of different kinds of people and different mental health issues, with my mother being a social worker and going with her to such places and meeting those people and interacting with them.
Okay. Would you choose the same style or a different parenting style when raising your own children?
I would think I would choose a similar style to what my mother did.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we'd make our own little tweaks to it, but I think we would overall be about the same. Okay, next set. So, what do you think are some of the joys and struggles that have come with being married?
Joy, being together, having someone to love.
Okay.
You love me.
uh,
Being together, having someone to love, having someone to be there with you every day, learning and growing together, having each other's backs, having someone to rely on. And then struggles, I would say, just learning how to communicate with people, with that person, learning how to cohabitate together, and just doing the struggles of day to day. Now that you're not a single entity anymore, learning how to be a whole with two different parts.
yeah. I would say for me, it's like, yeah, the joy is. Sorry, that's our dog. I
She's
would.
also getting pets.
Yes, we'll show her in a little bit. I would say the joy is definitely having, like, going through life with your best friend. Being able to always have that person with you and to rely on and, fall back on, like you said. Um, and I think both a joy and a struggle is like growing up together, going through struggles together. You know, it's like on the one hand, it can be hard because now instead of just being accountable for yourself, you're accountable for two people. Because, like he said, you're two parts to a whole. You have to think of the other person now. But I mean, that's also a good thing. You have another person to go through things with you, and that's really important. And yeah, communication. It's sometimes it's hard to learn the other person's communication style, but like once you get it down, you got it down, you know. Um, and learning the other person's habits if you haven't lived together, it takes a little while to get adjusted to the routine, but you find what works. You work through it. So, what different strategies have you used to overcome struggles in marriage?
Well, we've already talked about the bumbleberry. I would just say it's just communication and, fostering the intimacy. Like it doesn't happen. A relationship does not stay strong without work from both parties. You have to put in effort. You have to keep it going. It is not. It's like a plant or it's like a job. You have to put in effort for it to foster and grow. You can't just say, "Hey, look, we are what we are. It is what it is," and just let things be. If you have an issue, you need to work on it together. If you have a if you have a problem, you need to develop a strategy to fix it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would agree with that. I would also say remembering at the end of the day, whatever problems that you face, your problem is your partner is not your enemy. Your partner is not your problem. The problem is the enemy. The problem is the problem. You know, whatever you face together, it's like that's the issue. But your partner is not the issue. Your partner, you just have to work with them to get through the issue. Um, and it's really important to remember that, like, why you got together. You love that person. They are not your enemy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Okay. What have you done to keep your relationship fresh or interesting?
Dates. We still go on dates even though we've been married for years. We still go on vacations. You remember your last birthday? We went on a nice little vacation,
Yeah.
and we still try new things together. Like we did couples massage, which if you haven't done, I would highly recommend. Releases a lot of stress, especially in the back after you've been working for a while, and just things like that. Just
Yeah.
keep things interesting. We even play some video games together, have some hobbies together.
Yeah.
And even though we have some hobbies that maybe she doesn't enjoy, she still does it with me sometimes, like gardening and cooking,
It goes both ways. You do things with me that you don't enjoy, but
like shopping.
my thing was going to say learn new hobbies together, learn new skills together. You know, like, yes, you should always keep going on dates and spending time together and making new memories together, but also like learn something new. Like, maybe you both decide that you want to learn how to sew. Go to sewing class together. You want to learn how to grow your own garden. Learn how to do that together. You know, experiment together. It's like you're going through your highs and lows together. Okay. Um okay, we can't really answer the next couple of questions because it's about having children. And we don't have any children just yet, so I'm going to skip over those and go to the next one. What tips would you give to newlyweds overall for marriage?
Well, just like we already talked about, having those uh, communication work throughs set up, and having strategies, making sure to give each other time. Also, there's that very common 222 method. You go on a date night at least every 2 weeks, go on a little day trip at least every 2 months, and then go on a nice vacation at least every 2 years. That's a pretty common one and pretty helpful. I would say also just remembering that you are one whole and to take notice of your partner's emotions and to make sure that you're meeting their needs.
Yeah. And learn your partner's love language. That is so important. Everybody has a really bad habit of giving love in the same way that they want to receive love. So, for example, if someone's love language is physical touch, they want to receive physical touch, so they are more inclined to give physical touch to their partner. But if their partner's love language is quality time, then physical touch is nice, but they don't, that's not how they feel loved. You know, they want to just spend time together and like make memories together, and do things together and have all of their partner's time and attention. And so it's really important to learn what your partner's love language is. Like if your partner's love language is words of affirmation, make an effort to be encouraging to them and remind them of how much you love them and say positive things to them. You know, don't just focus on what your love language is, because you normally get rewarded. If you start taking notice of what your partner's love language is, they normally will start taking notice of yours. And it's easier for them to give you love in your love language if you learn how to give love in theirs.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And it's hard to do that. It is. You know, everyone has to learn, but you can do it.
Takes effort.
It does.
But it's worth it.
It takes effort, yeah. But it's worth it. Okay. The last set of questions is about this new sandwich generation, they call it, where people are having children later in life, which is leading to them having to take care of their children and their aging parents at the same time, which can be stressful. Now, again, like I said, we don't have children, but the question that I was going to ask about this is, how do you feel that we would handle that?
I think we'd handle it pretty well. I mean, as you know, we've already started to help taking care of my mother in her time of need, and you help with your grandparents and other elderly family and friends of your family. I think we could. I think we would be fine taking on the role of children in addition to that.
Yeah.
With the current setup we have now.
I think it would be busy, but I think we'd be okay. And I think it's important to remember that there are resources out there. You know, there are community resources that can help with aging parents and elderly people. There are, you know, there's other family members if you needed to ask for help, like, hey, I need to take my kids to the doctor today. Would you mind taking mom to the doctor today? You know, like, just know that you have a support system and you don't have to do it alone.
Yes, and you have a giant family.
Yes, I have a large family.
So there are many people there to call on.
Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty much all the questions. And the last one that I was just going to ask is if there's anything that we didn't talk about that you would want to talk
about. I think I'm okay. Although I would stress that pets are really good, especially Gizmo.
Yes.
Cats and dogs, you know.
Yes.
We also have a pretty good farm right here behind us. If we took away this nice curtain, you could probably see some chickens or some ducks waddling around. And what my mother loves, the horses and goats.
Yes.
Helps keep her young.
Animals are helpful.
Helps keep you busy, keep you focused, and helps create a purpose, because things like that in gardening help keep you grounded and help you realize what life's all about. That and just being together.
Yeah, we're happy. I'm going to show you guys Pepper now since she wanted to be a part of it. Pepper, come here. You got to see Gizmo, so now you can see Pepper. Come here. Say hi, Pepper. Isn't she so cute? Have a great week, everybody. Okay, so welcome to the second part of our questioning series for our podcast episode today. Again, you guys know who I am, but we are going to get started with our second special guest for today. So I'm going to back out of the frame and you'll hear me talking, but I'm going to focus it on them. So these are my parents. This is Kenneth and Stephanie. And so they're going to be answering some questions about marriage and relationships for us today. So to get started, how many years have you been married?
34.
Okay. All right. Was religion or faith a prominent force in your family when you were young?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. What benefits did you see in your family as a whole from having faith and religion be a part of your life?
I would say it framed the way we grew up, the way our outlook on life, and the way we interacted with one another.
And your morals and values also.
Okay. Um, how has this presence of faith within your family impacted your development as an adult?
It gave me a moral compass to base my life on, the knowledge of right and wrong, the decisions that we make in life.
Okay. So I know that you guys may or may not be familiar with it, but so according to Gary Chapman, there are 5 love languages. Those 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Um, so, per his theory, everyone has like 1 to 2 primary love languages that makes us feel most loved by others. What do you think that your primary love languages are?
Mine is acts of service.
Mine would probably be quality time.
Okay, moving on. What is your definition of intimacy?
I would say spending time together to get to know one another, getting to know each other's likes and dislikes, that sort of thing.
True.
Okay, what actions foster intimacy?
Spending time
Yeah,
together.
spending time.
Yeah.
What actions would you say hinder intimacy?
Well, obviously not spending time together, but I guess disagreements and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that there can be a true friendship without intimacy, and why? Or why not?
Well, yeah, you do have friendships. You can have close friendships outside of your marriage that are not considered intimate, but you can still have both friendship and intimacy within marriage, but then also just have friendship.
Okay. Do you think a marriage can last without intimacy?
No.
No.
Why?
Well, I think you have to have that intimacy to be able to draw close enough to build that's kind of your foundation to build the relationship on.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think are some key communication skills that couples must possess?
Communication, your first thing.
Yeah.
Spending time with each other, dedicating time for each other.
Yeah. Kind of knowing what your spouse's what buttons to push and not to push, where their limits are, and fostering each other in the good side of things, the good side of your relationship.
Okay. What would you say are some communication issues that you have struggled with over the years?
Communication.
Yeah.
Sometimes being able to talk out those hot spots that we know are going to be an issue, finding that level ground to be able to communicate and work out those things that we know are issues.
And being able to discuss your disagreements that you do have.
Okay. What steps have you taken to overcome those struggles?
Well, just try to work on that. That's about all you can do.
Try to learn to communicate better.
Okay, what pieces of advice in regards to communication only would you give to newlyweds?
Try to take time to listen to your spouse's grievances or the things that they're trying to say. Take time to listen and try not to get upset, as hard as that can be at times.
Okay. What are your thoughts on cohabitating before marriage?
I wholeheartedly disagree with it.
Okay, if you had to go back and redo things, would you cohabitate with your partner before marriage?
No.
All right, moving on. So, this next section is about parenting and the different parenting styles. So, I'm going to read you guys a little excerpt about those parenting styles so that you can better answer the questions. Okay, so it's considered that there are 3 types of parenting styles. The first one being permissive, which is like where parents will pretty much let their children do what they want and are quick to save them at all costs when something goes wrong. The second one is the authoritarian style, which is pretty much where parents expect all their orders to be obeyed no matter what, and they use like the threat of punishment or simply punishment to control their children. And the last one is the authoritative style, which is where parents are more reasonable and nurturing. They set high and clear expectations, but they help walk their children through problems. So, which parenting style do you think that your parents used with you?
Mine would have been authoritative and authoritative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you want to explain that?
Well, my father was more authoritative in that what he said went, where my mother was a little bit more lenient and she would show a little bit more of the love aspect. Not that my dad didn't love us, he obviously did, but that was how they parented together.
So they expected you to do what they asked you to do and not talk back and argue.
Yeah.
Okay, why do you think they chose that style?
I think that's how they were raised. That's all they knew.
Yep. Okay. Do you think their style was effective?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, how do you think that their parenting style impacted your life?
Well, the
way we were brought up, and that's the way we expected our youngins to be.
and
Also, and to respect their parents and the older generation.
And it turned us into the people we are today, and being respectful to our elders, and yes ma'am and no ma'am, and that kind of thing.
Did you choose the same or a different style when raising your own children?
I'd say the same.
The same.
Why?
Because we knew it worked. It was effective.
Okay. What would you say are some of the joys and struggles that have come with being married for so long?
Well, the joys would have been, the things we have experienced together, raising 2 great kids, and the time that we spent together, the memories that we have built, supporting one another through losses, and the joys that come with that, and then the struggles is just going through life.
You got day-to-day struggles that you just have to work through and deal with.
Okay. What different strategies have you used to overcome your struggles?
Well, the older you get, the more you mature, and it's a little bit easier to work through your struggles than it was when you was younger.
Yeah, I agree.
What have you done to keep your relationship fresh or interesting after so many years?
Well, we do things together. We try to spend time together. We do things that we both enjoy at the same time, like riding in the Jeep, going to the mountains, just that sort of thing.
You don't have a Jeep anymore.
Well, the Jeep we used to have.
How do you think that adding a child or children to your family changed your marriage relationship?
Well, to start off with, it puts more stress on you, but that's just where you've got to learn to work through your problems, communicate better.
And I think it takes the focus off of yourself, because then you're focusing on this little tiny human being you've brought into the world, and you want to do what's best for them and give them what's best and bring them up the way that you were brought up, and it changes your focus on what's important in your life at that point.
Okay, what strategies did you use for making parenting decisions?
As far as your parenting decisions, I mean, from how we was taught, how we was brought up was a big part of it, and then just learning on your own.
What would you say were some of the biggest struggles as parents and the biggest joys?
Well, the biggest joys would have been seeing y'all grow up and to find young men and women, and all the things that y'all have made us so proud of. The struggles is just that day to day, the
Learning when you hadn't got any experience, just learning what you need to do and do the right thing.
Going through the times that y'all were sick and you didn't know what to do, and just those kind of things right there. But you don't give up, you keep going, and you make it through to the end.
Okay. Did faith play a role in your marriage and parenting, and what role did it play?
Yes, it was absolutely important. It was essential.
Because it's your morals that you was brought up that you want to adhere to and raise our children to be like we was.
Okay, what tips would you give to newlyweds overall based on your experiences?
Well, you have to keep Christ in the center. Even though you're going to have struggles, you're going to have disagreements. There are going to be times when you don't like each other, but it doesn't mean you ever give up. You keep going. You never let the D word come into your arguments. You make up your mind from the very beginning that you're going to stay through it, stick with it, through to the end, no matter what comes your way.
And learn communication.
Yeah.
Do you want to clarify what the D word is for people that don't know?
Divorce, obviously.
Okay. So the next section is about what's called the sandwich generation, which is something that's happening within this generation where people are choosing to have children later in life, and they are having to care for their children and their aging parents at the same time. Has this happened to you?
No.
No.
If it had happened to you, how do you think that you would handle it?
It would have been very stressful,
No.
but it, just like with everything else, it's that those circumstances in life that you learn to adapt to and move forward.
Okay, so that's pretty much all the questions that we have at this time. Is there any final remarks that you would want to add?
I can't think of anything.
No.
Okay. Well, now we're going to show Max to the camera, which is their cat. So this is Max. He wanted to be a part of the episode too. But that's the end of today's episode. So we want to thank our special guest for being here today. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.